Hi, it's Rachel. I feel like, I want to share some things that I'm learning, okay? And one of the main things is that I feel like this whole earth is on the verge of moving from one age into the other. And the difference between those is the state of the human soul. Okay, in this age, the human soul has been full of just corruption and depravity because it has been very blinded, and is full of ignorance that has led to many cruelties and sufferings and torments on many levels. All right, and so what's happening is that, and that's why when I was talking about the trumpets, when you talk about the Spirit of God, who is truth and love, which is an inseparable unit. Okay, you can't have truth without love and love without truth. And within that unity, you find the other characteristics of God: the righteousness, the justice, the mercy, the compassion, the long suffering, all of these things, the purity, the holiness. And they can all be contained and expressed when you start understanding the unity of truth and love. And if we are truly a part of the divine, of God, of that eternal spirit, of the Spirit of Christ, okay, Jesus was showing us a picture into the Father's Spirit, then we are having our lives established on a foundation of truth and love. That means our decisions, how we think, how we perceive the world, is all starting to be reshaped and coming through a whole framework of this truth and love. That's what it is for your mind to be renewed. So this transition from one age to the next is about a transition of the state of the human soul. And it's going to be the human soul ascending, meaning it's going upward. It's growing in awareness and understanding and truth and love and consciousness. All of these things mean the same thing, because ultimately decisions that we make, how we act, is based on understanding, which is based on different constructs that we believe in and have faith in. Okay, faith is simply you choosing to act on certain beliefs because you think they'll produce a good result and what will fulfill your desires. Okay, and you operate by faith on understanding versus what you currently see. So you're not basing your decisions on what you currently see in your world, but you're basing on the understanding that you're getting from the Spirit of truth that is guiding you from within. So this transformation is happening within our minds, affecting our soul, okay, affecting our emotions, affecting every part of us. All right, and it is because love is a part of truth, okay, because love is voluntary. You cannot force someone to love. You simply cannot. So love is a choice. So how much you ascend, how much you transition, and the timing of that depends upon if you are seeking truth and love. Okay, you can't wake up one day and just go, you know what, I'm going to be a loving person, and all of a sudden you are. Because it's all based on understanding, because it's tied to truth. So that means you have to understand what divine love is. Okay, it is so pure and full of honor. It is full of all those characteristics of God, of righteousness, of justice, of mercy, of compassion, of all those things. So to truly learn what that means to live and how you make your choices, those are things you have to understand. So for example, I choose not to eat meat and dairy because of the industry that produces that, and how it treats the animals is very cruel. It boils them alive. It has horrible conditions, very crowded that they're in. They are in constant fear and in stress. And if you have a pet, animals feel emotions. Animals feel fear. They feel stress. And all these animals are no different than the pets we've had. But see, we've put those categories. We've said some animals are significant, some animals aren't. We eat some, we don't eat others. That's our judgment, okay? But all animals, because you can see just all the different pets that people can have, you can bond to them at the spirit level, okay? That shows there's a very special spirit there. They're just weaker and meeker, and those are the ones that people take advantage of. Okay, but when you look at how Jesus walked, he came to defend the meek and the weak. So, because he was showing us what love is. But I'll get more into that in a minute. But my point with this is that we are transforming, and we have to start opening up our eyes and seeking what does it mean to really love, and how does that affect our day-to-day decisions. Because if your mind is transforming and renewing, it's going to change the decisions that you make. So the reason that we need to seek this, so each day spending that time reflecting on what does it mean to abide in loving kindness, in care, in mercy, to treat others as we want to be treated, to love others as we want to be loved. All of creation, okay? It doesn't matter what skin that spirit has on it. You want to stop seeing the skin, and you want to start seeing the spirit, the essence of that person. It's the same thing with races and genders and cultures and religions. It's like you have to stop looking at the outside and start looking at there is a spirit in each one of those entities, okay? But again, I'm jumping ahead of myself. So this new mind, it is founded on a foundation that connects to God, that is a part of the divine, is going to be a part of truth and love. So if you do not have that, then you're not connected as you should. But that is why we have to seek, because we've all been blinded, we've all been misled, and we've all been in darkness. So, but that's what this time is. It's an awakening, which simply means a time of growing understanding. And when you grow in understanding truth, the truth, it always leads to more compassion and more love. Because that is what truth is, the inseparable unit, truth and love. Okay, because they both come from one single creator. So you have to seek, and if you seek, it gets you out of the boxes that you live in. Tradition, culture, religion, all these things, education, media, it puts our mind in boxes, okay, that shape it. And when if don't seek, we stay bound in those boxes, which we stay blind. And we stay disconnected from the Spirit of God, from the Spirit of truth, from the Spirit of love. So you have to constantly seek to keep yourself out of those boxes. Okay, because that's what the seeking does. You're always looking beyond, okay, into what that truth and what that love is. And this is a time where it has to be very practical in your life, because if you're really learning and seeking, God comes to you as an instructor, as a counselor. He is truth and love, that He is spirit. So if you're seeking truth and love, then you're going to encounter His Spirit within you, and it guides you in truth and love, and it will build, and it will lead you into it. And that's what I want to share with you, are some of the things that God has been showing me about what this new mind and what this new human soul consists of, what it's built on, is perceptions. Because how you perceive things, your eyes, if they're full of light, which means full of truth, you perceive things very differently than if they're full of darkness. Okay, so as we're becoming full of light, as we're beginning to awaken, so we're beginning to gain more understanding, then we're going to start gaining these fundamentals that shape our perceptions. And the first one that I want to address here is that we have to look and see that our small decisions, right, our daily choices that we make cause great ripple effects, okay? And they're all part of a continuum. So this is when Jesus was talking about, if you hate your brother, it's as if you murdered him. because that's where it starts. And for God, it's all one continuum. That's why he says if you've broken one part of it, the law, you've broken the whole thing. And the highest law set by God is love. Remember the 2 commandments? You love God, you love others, then you fulfill the law, all of them. Okay, it is about love. But but you grow in love by understanding, which is awareness. You see people correctly, you see creation correctly, you see yourself correctly, you see God correctly. So in our seeking to get out of our boxes, out of the blindness, we're starting to see more clearly. That brings this awakening. Okay, and that's what we're moving into. And you want to be moving into that because it blesses you and it blesses everyone around you. The ripple effect is huge of what you create when you do this. So when Jesus said about, right, if you hate your brother, it's like you murder him. If you look at another woman in lust, it's like you've committed adultery. And he says to love your enemies. Right, he came changing everything because he came in bringing love. Because that is a principle of love. In that pure truth is that the little choices you make cause great ripple effects. Okay, and if you are, for example, looking at other women and lusting after them and you're married, then you are feeding that adulterous spirit. That's how God sees it, because that's how pure his love is. And is that possible? Yes, it's possible not to look at other people that way. It's like you choose not to. And it may take some discipline at first because of habits, okay, and what you're used to putting in front of your sight. But this is where love is always a choice, okay? Because love is voluntary. No one can force anyone to love. Love is always a choice. And that is a fundamental thing we must understand. And if you really want to ascend in your mind, you must choose to say, you know what? I want to love at all times, in all situations, to all of creation. Now, that doesn't mean that you're going to be loving perfectly, because now you need the understanding. But if you seek and set your mind and your heart and your soul in that direction, you're setting your heart and your life on the path of righteousness, because righteousness ultimately means loving rightly, treating others rightly, treating others as you want them to treat you, and you want to be loved. Okay, you don't like to suffer. You don't like to be in torments. So you don't want to put any creation in torments or in suffering. And that goes into the animals. Okay, and why you don't want to partake of those industries, because of our consumption of meat and the mass amounts and the cheapness of it. They are in very cruel conditions. Okay, being boiled alive, extreme crowding, trampling one another, constant milking, constantly impregnated, babies stripped from them and killed to be eaten, the males castrated without any anesthesia. And I don't think any of us would want to be treated that way. So if you don't want to be treated like that, you can't treat others that way. Okay, so these are the small decisions we make that have massive ripple effects. And this is what Jesus was teaching in those things, is how to love and what pure divine love means when it's sown in truth. Is that you take your life and you look at the little things that you do and how would you want someone to respond to you. So you have to make that choice. So when it comes to relationships, okay, and for example with your spouse, to say, you know what, I always want to respond in the loving way, because that's what I would desire my spouse to do to me. So that's where you get to seeking, and that's where it helps to write each morning with that inner counselor guide, because that's how he comes to you. He's a spirit. That spirit and that of truth and love. And when you choose, when you say, I want to seek that, I may not know what it is, but I want to seek it, then his presence is right there, and he's going to start prompting you And you're going to start hearing in your spirit, you know what, this is really the loving way to respond in this situation. And every situation can be different. Okay, what's good for one situation may be different for another, but that's why you have to be in tune with that counselor each and every day. But in that, you learn what loving kindness means. Okay, and one of the first things that you learn is this principle of the small things matter. That's why in Zechariah it says, who has despised the day of small things? Okay, it's like, who has counted those as insignificant, as unimportant? And you certainly see this with the animal kingdom. We have counted them as insignificant, thus unimportant, so we can treat them however we want. We would never want anyone that was stronger than us to treat us that way. So we shouldn't be treating others that way. So that's what Jesus was teaching in this. So that's what you ask. How do I honor my wife? By not looking at these other women, not when I'm on the internet, staying away from sites that prompt me to look that way, because when you start turning your eye away from the lust, because lust and love in that cannot coexist, and how that makes your wife feel when you're doing that, it's not loving her. Okay, and you wouldn't want her to be doing that to you. And if you have, it's a justification. So we have to get very real about the little decisions that we're making each day and what that's creating in our life. Because if you're lusting after other women, you will never have a good marriage, because you will never have divine love as a part of it, because it is pure and it is holy. Okay, and it doesn't involve that. It's the same thing with the animals. If you want to eat meat and dairy and you don't care about how they're treated, you will never grow in divine love. That means you won't grow in the presence of God and experiencing all of His love, because you're blocking yourself from that connection, because you're choosing to continue to bring in cruelty into your body and to feed that cruel industry with your actions. So it's the small choices are very, very important. And again, we've all been there. We've all been blind. We've all thought it didn't matter because it was no big deal. We have to get rid of that kind of thinking. And because this is what I'm learning, is that the small choices we make affect our life dramatically. And as I am learning to make those choices for what true loving kindness is guided by that spirit of truth, and it's awakening me up to what that means. First of all, I'm amazed at how blind I was and absolutely how unloving. But as I make those choices, I'm amazed at the love that is pouring in, because when you choose to start embracing it and making those decisions for it, that truth and insight and revelation and understanding starts pouring into your life, because you're starting to choose that path. So you start to walk down that path and you start to see more and more. And I'll dive more into the next video.